Was that it? Hey everybody, this is Floyd Bishop. How's it going? I'm here with Eric Hankins and Eric Lepinen. One with a C, one with a K. And yeah, one of them spells their name incorrectly. It's up to you to figure out who. Today we're going to talk about soggy socks and yellow blocks. No, today we're going to talk about Sunstone Valley, which is awesome. It's finally coming very soon.
Yeah, we're excited.
So you want to give us the rundown on what we can expect to see?
Yeah, I can start with the story. Actually, Eric and I, we did a lot of the story for the Gloam Invasion and Shrouded Glade. He worked on the Druid half, and I did a lot of the work on the Dwarf half, and I'm continuing the story of the Dwarves into Sunstone Valley. And it continues on right where things leave off in the quest line. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't completed those quests yet. So now's the time. Get it in and get it done, because what you do matters, and when it's done, it's done. And going on to that, we'll be following the dwarves that you've met, like Golmy Greasebeard's back, has a big role. Dorn Geargrinder is back, and he has some issues he needs to work with that happened during the invasion, and you as the player get to be his friend and help him through those issues, as well as helping the other freewheelers overcome the problems that they were dealing with before the Gloam Invasion and caused them to go to the Druids to get help. So now time has passed in their world, and they didn't get help when they needed it because the Gloam invaded. So now the consequences of the freewheelers not getting help from the Druids is apparent, and that they've basically lost their homes, they've lost their territory, and now they have to get it back. So as the player, you'll help with the freewheelers, you'll help them regroup, you'll help them get supplies and get ready, and this ties in greatly with all the new art and new enemies and the new environment, and it brings a story of pretty much bringing this little introductory area of Rumble Ridge of Sunstone Valley together. And Eric can speak of some of the new, some familiar and some new races you'll be interacting with.
Yeah, so we're actually going to have a bunch of new races in Sunstone Valley. A lot of these are going to be combat NPCs that you're going to be fighting against. Some you'll be helping out through certain quest lines, and you'll really get all these different exposures to these characters. We'll show some screenshots in a few, but we'll have new races like Manguana, which are like these cool lizard people.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, you'll be dealing with dwarves, of course, the Skulls, which are the rival gang of the freewheelers. We're going to have drakes, some new little cactus creatures called cactoids, which are pretty fun, kind of bouncing around.
There's a comic or something, too, that kind of explains some of the story.
Yeah. So much like Shrouded Glade, what we did when players went into the game when we first launched it, we had this little story that players could go through. And we really upped the art style on it, and we're kind of pushing it to a whole new level. And it looks really clean, and it's a really representation of what you're going to get into Sunstone Valley. So we're excited for that to come out.
That's cool. Can we talk about how big Sunstone Valley is, or is that not on our list? It's pretty big.
We did mention it in the podcast a little bit, but it's around the size of Briarwood. Is
pretty good
what
size.
We're comparing it to. Yeah. So it's big. There's a lot going on out there. Everything's kind of split up into a region based on character level. Much like kind of what we did with Shrouded Glade, but it's much larger, so it's a little more spaced out. There's going to be a quest camp within each kind of combat area, which will take you through those areas and expose you to the races around, and you're helping all these kind of zany, weird, kooky characters.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So there's change to some jobs, too. They've kind of been expanded and altered a little bit. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Blacksmithing is one of the big overhauls that we're doing. It's going to include a whole new set of recipes. We have about 30 recipes going in right now, ranging from everything from wearables to wieldables to pets to flare shards.
So you get to make a pet.
Yeah, you'll be able to make a couple different versions of pets. Some have a little bit of a new unique flair to them, and they definitely feel like they were crafted by someone who's like a metal worker, you know. You're not going to be crafting fleshy creatures. You'll be kind of crafting like
robotic,
yeah.
cybernetic type things. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about any of the other activities in the area, or any of the different things that we can expect to see when we first go in? How do we get to Sunstone Valley?
So to get to Sunstone Valley, like Shrouded Glade, once you get into the game, you're going to be presented with a comic book, and once you go through the comic, it's going to teleport you to pretty much where you left off in Shrouded Glade. So you're going to be right in front of the bridge. And
actually, the bridge wasn't there yet.
The bridge was
site.
being constructed in Shrouded Gloam. So people are kind of, the dwarves and druids kind of work together and are building the way back home for the dwarves, and so players are going to be presented with that when they first come in, they're first going to it, and then they'll be able to run through Sunstone Valley and just have it all open up. And Rumble Ridge is kind of the first area that you'll kind of walk into.
That's cool. So let me just look at my notes here. So I've got all that stuff. We've got some images to show. Do we want to show some of those?
Yeah, we can go ahead and show this.
What are we looking at first? Here's the list. We've got Sunstone Robgoblins, I guess, first. Are those up? Okay, awesome.
All right, yeah, so these are the Sunstone Robgoblins. They're going to be inhabitants of the scrapyard area that's out in Sunstone Valley. So they kind of have a new twist on them. They're all just even more junk collectors, and you can tell that they kind of live in the desert. And the big guy in the back is Scrapmaster Fizzbang. He is going to be one of the Tier 5 bosses for
That's pretty cool.
the Sunstone Valley.
So that's some kind of like robotic chariot thing that he rides in? Is that?
It's a mech, battle mech.
Mech.
It does everything. It spins, it breathes fire, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome.
Actually, I already knew what that was because I animated that. But
Oh, what a troll.
the magic of the internet. Pretend I never saw it before. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
so,
we're really excited. They're really fun looking. I love the guy with the bucket head. It's
So-
just,
do we want to go to the next image? I guess there's a little bit of a delay between when we see the image and when it's actually up. So we'll just keep talking about this, even though the next image is getting flipped up. Is that the case? Yeah. So the guy with the bucket on his head, is that a teddy bear behind his head?
that is a teddy bear
That's pretty
strapped
crazy.
to the back.
So these guys look pretty weird.
So these are some of the craftable pets that you'll be able to make through blacksmithing.
So I can have that guy as a pet?
Yeah, you'll be able to make him actually. You'll find a dropped recipe in the world, and then you'll go and gather components and piece them together to make these guys. We're going to offer them in tint variations, and as you can see, they have that metal feel. These are the creatures we call the rocklar. There's a little bit of exposure to them in this area, and we'll start going into them as a race later.
That's cool. And then next up we've got the Manguana Shaman. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So those guys are pretty cool.
Yeah, so you'll be dealing primarily with the sand scale Manguana. They're the inhabitants of, the base of Sunstone Valley. This is one of the shaman that you'll be dealing with.
And you can't squeeze that guy, right? You shouldn't squeeze the shaman?
You should not squeeze
No,
the
for our older viewers, no?
No,
money?
no
Okay.
squeezing the shaman.
Yeah, actually, that guy, that's an old pose. He actually flies in the game, kind of
is
like
true.
the Robgoblin casters.
Mhm, yeah, they look great.
So when you see this guy in the game, he's actually going to be hovering above the ground a little bit, which is pretty cool. They look dangerous, but...
Yeah, and we have a bunch of variants on them, and they go from, very castery to kind of some hunter types, and then we have these really feral ones that are pretty aggressive.
That's cool. And then after that, we've got female dwarves.
So this is something we're actually really excited about too. So we've introduced dwarves to our players, and they've only actually seen the male variants, and this is our first time, getting the females into the game. And they definitely have, a really, really different style to them, but they keep that kind of dwarven flair. So you'll be finding these guys with some of them are part of the skulls.
Actually, most of them are partly on the freewheelers.
Well, there you go.
So, yeah.
What's interesting about this image right here is this is from one of our art reviews, and this is how we show a lot of our characters to the other parts of the teams. So we'll look at this, and then we'll be able to see all the different color variants, any kind of different outfits or whatever. So that's kind of cool to see. And then it says faction. What is that all about?
That looks like it might just be a typo.
Oh, awesome.
But there
So you have
is
no facts on faction. Okay.
This might be going into the Dwarven Blacksmith, which you'll be dealing with for the quest line.
Yeah.
Yes, this
There you go.
is Red Stonehammer. She is my hero. She's
She's
the
everybody's hero.
She is pretty much. You'll be dealing with her through the Blacksmith quest line. She'll kind of be guiding you along through the story of things that are just going wrong
She's
in the
pretty
valley.
tough.
Yeah, she is. You don't want to mess with
Don't
her.
mess around with her.
Yeah, she's serious business.
And then we've got, it says Dwarf Biker Colors and Dwarf Biker Brawler. So I guess those are two different things we're going to look at.
Yeah, these will be the skulls coming up. These are going to be the primary villains of Sunstone Valley. These are the guys